Hey guys, welcome back. Let's kick off game number 2 of aTnSocke vs. Puma from the Intel Extreme Masters Tournament number 6 in Cologne, Germany, best of 5 series, with a cross-spawn position game PvT today on GSL Terminus. Now, as far as game number 1 goes, very exciting matchup. I think a couple mistakes were made there towards the end, which really didn't help aTnSocke. But moving forward in game number 2, this is a very macro-oriented map, and at least from my own personal experience and observations of aTnSocke's style of play, I've found that he is exceptionally strong when you get into the later stages of the game. I've seen so many games from him where it'll get into the 30, 40, 50-minute mark, and he will just be in the zone. So I'm looking to see if aTnSocke is going to be able to push it that far. This is certainly a map where you can do exactly that, especially given how far apart these players actually are. Now, Terminus can be very air-oriented, drops, Banshee harass, that's going to be the things I'm looking for Puma if he decides to go with a harassment style of play. I've seen that so far he does kind of generally tend to favor that bio-oriented play, PvT, Marauders, Vikings, Medivacs, things of that sort. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm also kind of expecting early expansions from both. Again, that's just pretty standard for when you got this type of map. You can do pressure plays, but I mean, really it comes down to the scouting. We do, of course, have aTnSocke heading out with the first probe, and I think once he comes down here and he sees so far Puma, 1 barracks, no gas, 1 depot, that's it. He's probably going to be thinking that Puma is going to be going for that command center probably in just a little while here. Of course, we can spot he's riding at around 300 minerals as we speak, so that should be coming shortly. Up here in aTnSocke's base, we're going to have a cybernetic score probably dropping here in just a second. Yep, there we go. Everything's looking pretty hunky-dory as well. We have 1 assimilator, 1 gateway, and you see that pylon tucked nice and close to the nexus there. That's how I love to see them placed. But anyways, as far as aTnSocke's concerned, I mean, pretty much the sky's the limit. Really, what I'm going to be watching for is the timings on if he goes Colossi or High Templar. You know, the charge upgrade for Zealot's going to be very, very important. We saw that he really could have used that upgrade earlier in game number 1. I mean, he did get it fairly soon. So, I mean, it's really not that huge. It's not like he did it wrong. It's just, well, I think pretty much the biggest thing we're going to watch here for is the force fields as well. I felt like 1 or 2 of the force field placements there. You saw that aTnSocke's slow reaction for Puma is kind of blitzing out of his base. If he had placed a force field in that ramp, boom, it would have annihilated the force, only having to deal with a small portion of it after it had stemmed and lost that health. But nope, not quite able to do that, so we're going to look for aTnSocke to be a little bit more attentive here. Moving forward in game number 2, and again, that's not to say for the aTnSocke fans that he is not attentive. I'm just saying sometimes players do things like that. It's perfectly fine. And we'll just move ahead. Okay, so there's the Stalker going out, presumably to check the watchtowers. Of course, have aTnSocke controlling this 1 watchtower, which is actually a very important one. Puma, I think, realizes he needs to get out and do a little bit of map control here. He's got a few Marines. Pretty much he's bringing this quantity because he's worried about finding a Stalker midfield, I think. It's a very common Protoss unit to run around and claim the watchtowers, as it's pretty good generally against anything but the Marauders. So, moving forward, bunkers going down. We see, again, 2 additional barracks, plus that command center now taking light here, turning into an orbital command. There's that second geyser. So as far as income goes, 24-21, still very early in this match. Terran just working on a little bit of gas right now, obviously bringing in that second as well. Not quite as reliant on it as the Protoss player would be at this point, but aTnSocke does have his expansion going down, and that's going to be a very important move here. Now, taking a look at what aTnSocke has seen so far, not that much. All he knows is that there's a bunker. He's probably thinking that there's going to be an expansion. That's most likely what he's thinking. But, you know, moving ahead here, pretty much still, he's going to go ahead and build up pretty standard play. He's got the second gateway. He's got the robotics facility. That's pretty much not only to get Colossi later on, or Immortal, depending on, you know, where the timings of where he wants to attack, but also he needs to get out an observer, and that's exactly what he's doing right now, because he is missing that scouting information. He doesn't know exactly what his opponent's doing, and having that information is absolutely important. It's imperative he gets that moving ahead, so that way he knows what to spend this money on. He tries to place another force field here to block off the scout. He is successful. He does lose a 50 energy, unfortunately, there, trying to catch it, but alas, Not able to. Back down to Puma space, we see going for a starport. He's already got a factory just kind of sitting there, not worrying about any add-ons at this point. And you see he is pretty much just going 2 Marines, 1 Marauder off of his current setup. He is researching STEM. And he also does have 1 bunker going down, a decent, a sizable force right here. This will be pretty good for harassment. Obviously, he's not looking to just go up and annihilate the Protoss right then and there. But for now, we can just look at the unit composition and see 3 Stalker, 3 Sentry. I do believe, actually, yeah, we've got the Observer floating around right here. Will it spot the army? No, it will not. It's going to just barely go past it, but it will make its way here into the natural, where we'll spot this nice little force right there. So, Puma keeping his forces right here at the watchtower, pretty much just waiting for something to happen. He's keeping them pretty close to his chest there, doesn't want to extend it too far out. We have an additional tech lab and a reactor going down over to the income tab. You see both players still pretty even for the harvesters, of course, the mules kicking them above the Protoss income in turn of minerals. Army size, you can see it's actually pretty close in terms of minerals, but a lot of the gas right there is right here. Sentries, also 1 Immortal. Back to the production tab, you see a couple medevacs on the way, and I'm going to be looking to see if Socke decides to go ahead and take his 3rd as well. Oh, hey, Kitty! Kitty wants to come here and control all of the keys, but I'm going to try to keep him actually from doing exactly that. So, there's a scan. Puma knows. Okay, robotics facility. He saw at least. I want to say he might have seen this one, but I think he's more or less just kind of expecting a Gateway Robotics Bay Force, Robotics Facility, rather. I always get those two confused when I actually try to pronounce it. But there's the Robotics Bay going down. We see combat shields on the way, and Puma continuing to run around here. Ooh, looks like he could be going for a drop. This could be rather interesting. I don't know how successful it will be, though, because Socke has this force right here. Obviously the 2 Stalkers, 2 Sentries are going to be able to get some early shots onto the medevac. Of course, we can spot it's heading down right here. Could be going actually the long way around one of these 2 pathways. I'm not too sure. But Socke does have this Observer floating around. Very, very smart move. I mean, again, tons of wide open spaces here on this map, so doing something like this will definitely help out in the long run. Of course, we can spot that medevac running across midfield right now. Here comes the Terran Observer, checking out the 3rd expansion. Doesn't see anything just yet. He knows he's going to be slightly ahead on minerals here in the moments to come. Of course, that gap will widen even further as time goes by, and there's no nexus here. But we'll see if Socke actually decides to go for a 2-base play, or if he's just going to play passive, continue to macro up, and it looks like he is, saving up the money right now. Very, very fortunate for him that he actually sent that probe down there to drop that expansion. Just worked out super well. We can, of course, see there's a couple Stalkers over here, again, anticipating a 2nd drop. Not going to happen, though. As observers, we can spot there is only currently 1 dropship running around midfield. There is, of course, another one over here with a set of Marines and a Marauder, and there's another SCV transfer. Now, we're going to see the income kick up just a little bit higher for the Terran player than it already is, 51 to 49 right now. So far, not really a lot has been lost in terms of units. You can see 100 to 150. A fairly quiet game so far, pretty much just macroing up. APM 265 to 132, and back over to the Army tab, you see they're still fairly close, neck and neck in terms of minerals. Again, tons of gas into that Protoss army. He's going for a good bit of robotics tech. Having that Immortal, I think, is a very good choice. Help out in dealing with those Marauders, get some of that focus damage there. And we do also have, again, Puma running around, continuing to pretty much just check the watchtowers, make sure he controls the map. He's trying to keep the Protoss player contained within that small area while he continues to build up his own 3rd base here, which is looking pretty good, I must say. Now, Socke moving ahead, just wants to kind of, doesn't want to send out his whole force, doesn't really commit fully to that. Maybe he's afraid of showing off exactly what he has. We do also have, I believe, an attempted drop up here. Not very successful, though. As you see, Medevac's just kind of sitting around right there. But, for now, he is going to be moving ahead, full speed, heading towards the middle of the map where there's a proxy pylon being placed, by Socke. Now, this will be interesting. It is a good bit farther away. Okay, there we go. This one's a little bit closer, so be able to provide a little bit of shorter run distance time between where he might be attacking the natural, he might be attacking the 3rd. It's hard to say. One thing I want to point out right now, he has to be very careful about these Vikings. You see they're running around. There's about 7 of them or so. You can see And, yeah, there's only 2 Colossi. So, plenty of Stalkers. He should be able to actually deal with those without too much difficulty. I would also like to see some nice force fields here. Let's see if, let's see how that goes. If the Terran player decides to actually attack, oh man, there goes a full volley of missiles on it. He's got to be careful. You see the Vikings are actually just kamikazeing in, trying to pick him off. Puma realizes there's only 2 Colossi, and if he can sacrifice a couple Vikings to take out half of that splash damage potential from the Protoss army, then it's going to be definitely worth it. We did have some nice force fields right there, keeping the Terran army at bay. And there goes the Vikings once again. He knows he's going to be coming under heavy fire. He doesn't really care because there's only one Colossus left, and now all that energy has been blown. Now we do have 1 Guardian Shield mitigating a lot of that damage, but still most of this is Marauders who are able to fire away. Not a lot in terms of Zealots. Those force fields really kept the few Zealots that were in the field away from the fight. That's something you do have to kind of watch out for when you're playing as Protoss and you're going for a force field, a build that relies heavily on force fields, or pretty much any engagement where you're really emphasizing that. You've got to watch your Zealot count in relation to your force fields. I say that's a problem I see a lot of newer players make, is they'll have a whole bunch of Zealots, and then they'll throw down, oh, I'm going to force field their entire army. They can't chase me. And then their Zealots just run around at the front like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. Well, that's not how you do it. You need to kind of use the force fields to cup in your opponent, like Marauders or something like that, so that way your Zealots can come in, close the gap, and keep those units from stemming, running around, and effectively cutting half of your army away from you and away from the Colossi range, which is really going to be important here. Now, Puma is falling back. He realizes the 3 Colossi here. He doesn't have an effective way of dealing with it. He could try to stem up and try to take out one of them, but he would suffer some very heavy losses. Of course, the Stalkers running ahead of the Zealots. Again, we do have the charge upgrade about 75% complete here. I think having that would really, really help out moving forward in future engagements. But look at the positioning now for Puma. He's already got that fantastic concave. Force fields will not be able to save him now. Going down, Colossi, first one, second one, the last one is the hair away from death. Stemming and stutter step micro. Bam! Socke's army was just annihilated there. Fantastic positioning by Puma is really what it came down to. That, and he also had just so many Marauders. He had the Vikings to help out as well. So, going now, Socke, I'm really not sure he's going to be able to recover. You see, he does have a Templar Archives on the way, hoping to get some stem, maybe some Archons as well, get those heavy damage absorbing units. But again, I don't think it's going to be enough. We spot there's a few Zealots up here, but look at the army size. That is a huge gap between the players, not even to mention the supply count difference. Now, this is what I'm talking about, man. These force fields are great. You see the Zealots are able to keep half of that army just completely stuck, no cutting whatsoever. The problem is Socke just does not have enough forces to deal with the rest of it. He had great form that time, but it was the Manor Mules. Oh, GG. Puma coming in at the last second with the Manor Mules, sealing the deal and taking game number 2. All right, guys, are we going to have a 3-0 shutout here? I'm not too sure. We could have up to 3 more games. Could have only 1. You should stay tuned and find out.